Page 27, the Escalator. On page 26, they're introducing you to major scale pattern. More specifically, the C major scale. A scale is, simply put, is a set pattern of intervals. Now, there's only about 1,500 different scales in music worldwide. We're only going to deal with major scales and minor scales. Right now, we're just going to deal with major scales. So we're going to learn the pattern for major scale. And it's an easy pattern if you can picture a piano keyboard. If you start on C. Now remember whole steps and half steps because it's important. I told you before it'd be important. A scale. We're going to follow the white notes from C to C because that is a C major scale. So the pattern is whole step. Going from the first note to the second note is a whole step. Then another whole step. Then a half step. Get it? That's two whole steps and a half step. Then a whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. That is a pattern for any major scale. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Whew. I can start on any key, black or white, doesn't matter. And if I apply that pattern, I get a major scale. May not know what scale it is, but it'll be a major scale. I've told you to do my C major scale and the G major scale, so let's look at the G major briefly. I'm going to start on a G. I'm going to end on a G. I'm going to play all the white keys if possible, except for the F sharp. Now you already know there's an F sharp in a G major, I hope, in the key of G major. Therefore, we're going to play an F sharp in the G major scale. But you're going to find that it follows this pattern. So we got two whole steps and a half step, and then three whole steps and a half step. So do that. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. G major scale. Simple enough. I told you to do the F major scale video also because F major has one flat, a B flat. So what it would be is all the white notes from F to F except the B flat. You're not going to play a B natural, it'll be B flat. But it follows the same pattern of whole steps and half steps. Two whole steps, a half step. Three whole steps, a half step. Let's try it out. F. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. F major scale. I could do that on any key, black or white, and I'll get a major scale. Now they're telling you to do a D major scale. I don't like that idea because you haven't had D major key yet. I would prefer you be introduced to the key. Then you can get the scale. But in case you're going to try it, D major has two sharps instead of one. An F sharp is always the first sharp, and a C sharp. So when you do it from D to D, you're going to do all the white notes except for the F sharp and the C sharp. But you can still follow this pattern and you'll get it anyway. I'm not going to go over it any more than that. Now, there is a standard fingering used by most pianists for scales. Not all. Some pianists do their own thing. You got to have the rogues out there insisting they're going to do their own fingering. I'm not getting into that. I'm going to teach you the fingering I do in my videos. It's the fingering they use in this book. It's good enough for me. And that simply means we're going to cross the thumb, we're going to cross over the thumb, or we're going to pass the thumb under. So we're changing hand positions. The hands are not going to stay in one simple position anymore. Because if I do the whole scale, I got more notes up here, and the hand doesn't reach all the way up. I got to move my hands around. Things are starting to get interesting here. Not that they haven't been. However, look at the Escalator. Now, they give the scale at the top of the page in the fingerings, but I want to look at the music. Let's look at the Escalator. The first line there at the beginning is the right hand. You're going to start with the thumb. So you think you're starting in this position, and that's fine. You are. You're not going to use all the fingers there, but you are. Starting with the thumb, and you're playing the first 3 notes that way. And then when you look at the 4th note in the first measure, it's thumb again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross my thumb under. You can't see it very well, but I'm crossing my thumb under. Here, here. It's not very far. Now, some teachers don't teach this technique. They'll teach you just move your hand over. I teach this technique. You move the thumb under and connect the notes. And then when you move it over, then you move your hand over. Now you're in a new position. We're in this position. But this is a position we need to finish that scale, because now we can go up to C. So we go all the way up. We played the scale. It's the fingering used in my scale videos, and I recommend you use it. Also go down. When you go down, you get to the thumb, you cross over the thumb with the middle finger, the 3rd finger, and do that. And that's because the middle finger played the E to begin with, you know. Left hand, look at the second line. Here we're starting with a little finger. We're going to go up the scale. Get to the thumb. Now we're going to cross over the thumb and put the 3rd finger on the A. Your thumb is here. I'm just going to cross over it. It could be a little awkward when you're not used to it. You need to get used to it. It will get comfortable eventually. If you go back down, they don't here, but you could go back down. When you get to the A, the middle finger, you just cross the thumb under, like we did with the right hand. And that puts us in position to finish it. So I would encourage you to learn this. You will run across scales in music pieces all the time, and it's so much easier to play them if you know the scale. Now there is a gotcha in here. I call them gotchas because they'll get you if you're not looking for them. And that is when you finish the first line, your right hand is in this position. Generally, you'll leave the hand in the position where it's at until you need it someplace else, or you'll take it away from the keyboard and put it on your lap until you need it again. Right now, I'm recommending you leave the hand on the keyboard. We'll get to putting it on the lap later on. So it's like at the beginning of the piece. The right hand is playing the first 2 measures. The left hand isn't needed till the 3rd measure. But I'm telling you for now, put both hands on the keyboard and leave them there for the whole piece. Later on, I'll tell you, you can leave one hand down or whatever when the time comes. Now when you end the first line, the right hand is up here, the left hand is staying here. But when you start the second line, the left hand starts here, and you still got your right hand up here. But in the 3rd measure of the second line, your right hand has to come back down to this position. And your left hand has already gone up. This is middle C position. So be aware that for the last 2 measures, the right hand has to come down. You have plenty of time. There's no hurry. There's 2 measures of rest, so you can move the hand down whenever. The point is, make sure it's there before you need it. Any time before. A beat or 2 before is fine. You want to wait till the right, when the left hand plays that C, the last note in the 2nd measure in the last line. Right when it does that, you move down there, or you move it down when the left hand plays the B, the next to the last note, the quarter note. When it plays that, move it down. It's up to you when you move it down. Just get it there before you need it there. Don't wait till you need it there and move it. That's too late. Later on, the music gets a little tricky. You might have to move it and play it immediately. But right now, make sure you can move the hand where you need it before you need to play it. That's really the only tricky stuff about Escalator, because these whole notes and half notes, you've had that stuff before. You should be able to do that without too much trouble. Let's try the Escalator out slowly, very slowly, and see what happens. I'll give us 4 counts because it's in 4/4 time. And the melody, as far as the melody goes, well, the first line it's in the right hand, so you can play the right hand a little louder than the left. And then the second line it's in the left hand, so you can play the left hand louder than the right for the second line. So starting out in C position. 1, 2, ready, go. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Off.